Well, hello and welcome to Bingewatch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the group editor of Woman and Woman and Home magazine.
And I'm Ian McEwan, writer on What's on TV, TV Times and TV and Satellite Week magazines. And today we're looking at the new releases for the week starting Friday the 14th of April 2023, including Jennifer Garner in the missing persons drama The Last Thing He Told Me on Apple TV+, and steamy Netflix drama Obsession, starring Richard Armitage and Charlie Murphy as a couple who embark on an intense love affair.
And we'll also be revisiting Victorian sleuths Miss Scarlet and the Duke on Alibi and snooping on a special edition of Sky comedy Intelligence starring the very lovely David Schwimmer. But first, Ian, what is in the news?
In the Netflix period drama The Abandons, which is set in 1850s Oregon, Lena Headey will play a formidable matriarch, yes Hannah, who must fight to protect her adopted family of orphans. What else is in the news?
I think you'll find I'm the formidable matriarch around here. She says jokingly, as my children laugh in my face. And Jessica Chastain will head the cast of Apple TV Plus's drama The Savant, about an elite investigator who goes undercover within online hate groups. Ooh, that sounds a bit horrible. But anyway, onwards.
Onwards indeed. Secrets and lies. I'd say that's the theme of this week's podcast. We're going to start off on Apple TV Plus with a new series that arrives on Friday the 14th. It's called The Last Thing He Told Me. And here's a clip.
I haven't heard from Owen in 24 hours.
Your husband is not who you think he is.
What defines you?
What defines you?
I ask first.
There's nothing I wouldn't do for my daughter.
So this stars Jennifer Garner. It's based on a best-selling novel, which I haven't read. It's one of those dramas in which the people seem like the sort of people who only exist in TV dramas. So she creates art by carving wood, and she and her boyfriend live on a beautiful houseboat in Sausalito, which is just near San Francisco. So it's all very designer and gorgeous. Anyway, they've only recently got together. So she's Hannah, and her boyfriend is called Owen. So she's an artist. He's a sort of tech startup guy. Owen is played by Nikolai Coster-Waldau, who people will know from Game of Thrones. Anyway, so they're both very good looking, of course. And he has a daughter, Blaine, who has a sort of quite a tetchy relationship with her dad's new girlfriend, which you can understand. She's a teenager. She is played by Angourie Rice, who was in the brilliant Kate Winslet series, Mayor of Easttown. Okay, so that's the setup. Everything seems very lovey-dovey at the start. I think they're about to celebrate their 14-month anniversary, if there is such a thing. But then he suddenly disappears, and he leaves one note for his girlfriend. All it says is, protect her, referring to the daughter. And he leaves a note for the kid as well. And the circumstances surrounding his disappearance is that his startup company is being investigated for potential fraud, and the cops have all turned up at the office and they've removed loads of paperwork. She's left with the teenager, and they don't get on very well anyway, and he's not answering his phone. No one knows where he is. He hasn't even taken any clothes with him or anything. So it's the search to, well, A, to find him, and B, how much did he know about this kind of fraudulent behaviour at his company? Apparently it was inspired by the whole Enron thing. The writer was inspired by that. I really like Jennifer Garner. She's always a compelling screen presence. I didn't love it, I must say. It was all a bit kind of designer looking, and I didn't feel the characters were that fully drawn. But yeah, she's great to watch. And I did think the stepdaughter was quite a good character, Bailey. And it will be interesting to see how are they going to learn to kind of cooperate together, because obviously there's a lot of resentment, especially from the daughter to this new woman in her dad's life. So yeah, I wasn't blown away, but I enjoyed episode 1. I thought it was okay. What did you think, Hannah?
I know what you mean, but I actually did enjoy it, just because I always think I suppose it makes you question everything, doesn't it? How well do you really know somebody? And I suppose she hadn't been with him that long, but the idea that everything was kind of happy, and then suddenly you read this kind of news that that there's a really big problem, and actually you can't sort of believe that the person that you live with, that you love, could be involved. And I think the dynamic with the stepdaughter Bailey is quite interesting, because there is animosity there, and yet he's asking her to protect her. So I thought the premise of it was quite good. I haven't read the book, but I wonder sometimes whether these things just don't sort of translate that well to screen. But if anyone could pull it off, it would be Jennifer Garner, I think. So I think she's pretty good in parts that she plays, and I think the author was really delighted with what was done with it. But I did enjoy it, and as I say, I think it makes you question what you really know.
Absolutely. Now, another family man with the secrets coming up. Great anticipation surrounding this one on Netflix. It's a new series called Obsession, and here is a clip.
You're Jay's father.
That's right. And you're Jay's new girlfriend. I think he's worried about introducing us.
Should he be?
Yes, so this only has 4 parts, and what I would say is do not watch it with your mother or anyone else you might be embarrassed in front of, and do not watch it if you're a prude. This is really quite something, isn't it? I mean, I love the Bridgertons and these kind of where you see an awful lot, but this is really hot and steamy. And I absolutely loved it. So it does what it says on the tin. It's called Obsession, and it stars Richard Armitage, who I have to say, absolutely brilliant. He plays the part of William Farrow, who's a top surgeon, and he's got this kind of swarthy older man look that's just very, very attractive, I think. And he becomes very, very obsessed by his son's fiancée, Anna, who's played by Charlie Murphy. And I think it's the camera work and everything about it is really quite clever, I think. You can see the attraction immediately. But she seems to be the kind of woman, and let's be honest, there are women out there, I'm sure there are men out there too, who just kind of, I always say, if you meet Angelina Jolie and she wants you, she's going to have you. They've got that power. And this is what she has. She has this power, and this crackling effect between the two of them. And he's never had an affair before. He's in a very happy marriage. I mean, everything about their life is pretty perfect. And all of a sudden, she comes in, and he just can't. He's intoxicated by her. He can't stop himself, and he embarks on a very steamy love affair. As I say, do not watch it with your mother if you feel embarrassed in front of her. He just can't resist her, and he knows that he runs the risk of ruining absolutely everything. His son adores her, he's engaged to her, and of course his wife. And you see him flitting, in all honesty, between bedrooms, between his lover and his wife, and that's quite uncomfortable to watch. But he's just somebody who just can't say no to this woman. And he becomes so obsessed that he follows them, his son and her, while they're away, and it's just too much. He doesn't know when to stop. And as I say, it's intriguing because he's obviously a clever man. He's a top surgeon. He has everything he could possibly want, so it seems, and yet he's willing to risk it all for this person. And she does have there's definitely something about Anna, to be honest with you, that absolutely you can see why he can't resist. But the interesting part of this is that she's clearly got a story too, so it's not just one dimensional. You do get to understand about her, why she might be like this. This also is based on a book too. For me, I think it's really well done. I mean, it's quite sort of edge of the seat stuff at times, because you kind of don't want them to be found out, because you don't want the hurt that comes with it, because you can see the fallout from this. But at the same time, it's also absolutely wrong, because they're just basically sleeping with their respective partners and then having this illicit affair. It's quite a complex story when it comes to Anna's life. But for me, I thought it was great, but any more than four parts to this, and I think, oh gosh, I don't think I could cope with any more, Ian. What did you think?
It's very good, though. I did find it very hard to watch, even though it's top quality. I mean, Damage is the more appropriate title, I guess, because because it's almost like a therapist's dream, isn't it? Like, imagine your father sleeping with your partner. I mean, it's hard to think of any worse kind of betrayal. Yeah, great cast. Again, these are high achievers, and like they've got a massive. It's like a sort of country estate. They've also got a house in London. So he's a surgeon, as you say, the Richard Armitage's character, William. And how could anyone who's married to Indira Varma, who plays his barrister wife, have an affair? It's beyond me. But anyway, he does. But yeah, you see that he obviously has a high-stress job. The first thing we see him doing is separating Siamese twins, or conjoined twins, as they're called now. Shouldn't say that, should I? But he's drinking a lot, he's under a lot of stress, so you can tell he's a slightly complex character, even though he's got this apparently idyllic life. And I remember the film, they made a film of it, didn't they, with Jeremy Irons. Miranda Richardson played his wife, he was an MP, and Juliette Binoche was the son's. The son was Rupert Graves, actually, and Juliette Binoche was the love interest. And it's really well done, and I did find it convincing. Particularly, Charlie Murphy is very good at playing the femme fatale, who just draws Richard Armitage's character in. And yeah, you're right, he's a bit of a silver fox, isn't he? So I did find the affair convincing, and it's really well done. So their first sort of physical encounter, there's no dialogue at all. It's really well done, but I just found it. I just found it really hard to watch, just knowing what the kind of collateral damage is going to be if this comes out. So, but it's very well done. And I mean, Armitage, he's a fine actor, isn't he? He's very good in this. So yeah, I think it's well worth a look. Yeah, and as you say, only 4 parts, so it won't take up too much of your time. Next up, yes, we're going back to the Victorian age, Hannah, for the return of the period crime drama Miss Scarlet and the Duke. And here's a clip.
What can I do for you, William?
Oh, nothing, I just thought I'd pop by. It's been a while.
Has it? I didn't realise.
I've done something to upset you.
What makes you say that?
Are you doing this to stop me from getting that money?
What? Why on earth are you being so irrational? Oh, is this to do with me and Arabella?
And I'm the one being irrational.
So if you're not familiar with this one, and you should be by now, Kate Phillips stars as Miss Scarlet, Eliza Scarlet, who is a female private investigator in Victorian London. Quite unusual. She basically took on her father's agency when he passed away. And Stuart Martin, who was in Jamestown, he plays William Duke Wellington, who is a Scotland Yard detective. They knew each other when they were kids because her father took him in. But their paths cross a lot, a bit like Sherlock Holmes and Inspector Lestrade, because they're often working on the same cases, but obviously she's a private investigator and he is a policeman, so they clash, but there's also an attraction there. So it's a case of the week type thing. There's always a new investigation. The first one of this new series is very good. It reminded me a bit of that film The Prestige, because it's about a stage magician, illusionist, who disappears during his own act. So that's quite a nice idea. And it's been kind of sustained by the will they, won't they get together vibe. Well, that takes quite a dramatic turn in this, I think it's the 3rd series, because a girl that Eliza knew when she was at school, who she didn't like very much, reappears. She's called Arabella. She runs a restaurant, and she's very attractive. She's played by Sophie Robertson. And yeah, she's likes the Duke and he likes her. So, oh dear, is it all going to go off the rails, Hannah? I hope not. But I'm quite invested in this one because I did go on set for it when it was made in Dublin, and we went to I think we went to a pub where they had traditional Irish dancing, and I was given a certificate after my performance on stage as an Irish dancer. Anyway, that's irrelevant. And now it's made. I think they've moved the production to Serbia. So yeah, quite a big change. But yeah, it looks great. They have a really good chemistry, the two leads, and the cases are interesting. But I do think the introduction of this kind of love triangle elevates it a bit, which is really good, because you see them initially, they are kind of meeting up for dinner and so on, and they're posing as a couple for one investigation, pretending that they're engaged. But then this woman arrives who Eliza doesn't like anyway, and worse still, she looks like she's going to get together with Duke. So I do like this series. It's got the crime drama, but it's also got a nice sort of romantic feel to it, and it's got some quite funny dialogue and some good supporting characters as well. So, yeah, I'm a fan. What do you think, Hannah? Do you like this one?
I do like this series. I like the. See, for me, it needs to go to another level. We were talking about earlier about the kind of vulnerabilities of people and seeing kind of their complex backgrounds and what have you. And I think this is what this does really well in this particular series, because you see Eliza as this really strong woman in the position that she's in. And then suddenly she meets this childhood nemesis, and who also shares an attraction and with the same person, and that becomes really difficult, and it almost transports her back to that time when there was obviously at school wasn't such a confident character, or the confident character that we appeared to see. And we know in all walks of life the most confident people are quite often the most vulnerable people, and you see that vulnerability. And I think when you do see that, you warm to her more, and you're kind of more engaged in the story. So I think it had a different layer added, and that's why I liked it so much.
And I'll just add that actually arrived on Tuesday, the 11th of April on Alibi, but it's also, all 6 episodes are available on Sky, Virgin and Now TV. Now, Hannah, we've had crime, we've had fraud, we've had sexual infidelity. Thank goodness we're going to sign off with a bit of comedy on Sky Comedy and Now TV. It's Intelligence, a Special Agent Special. And here's a clip.
Joseph? Jerry? Why are you tied on to me?
Oh my God, I was about to ask you the same thing. What?
Hang on, I think I have a lighter in my pocket. Can you reach it? No, not a pocket.
Oh. Hang on. Okay, I got it.
Okay, you're gonna have to burn through the ropes. Yeah, have you ever used a lighter before?
Yes, twice. Once in Boots, once in Centre Parks.
I think after the second series, it ended on a bit of a cliffhanger, didn't it? So this was, I think it was back in 2021, all those many moons ago, back in lockdown. You had Agent Jerry Bernstein, played by David Schwimmer, was kidnapped and bundled into the back of a van, while his pal Joseph Harris, played by Nick Mohammed, was left jobless after being fired by the GCHQ. So that was where it was left, and I suppose it had elements of needing to come back to kind of restore the equilibrium. It's a special. Although I've read an interview with them, and they both say that it does leave it open for there being more. But if it finished here, it would be okay. In this special, you see how the pair deal with their ordeal. So it's an hour-long special, and there are new emergencies in there. That threatens their cybercrimes unit, and it's a bit of a weird one. I don't actually love this. I find, even though it should be funny, and I do find it funny in places, it feels a bit try hard. I kind of felt like I left it where I left it. But having said that, it does star the legendary Jennifer Saunders as the energy minister, Joanna Telfer Fotheringham. So that's quite good, and she's drafted in because there's this enormous data breach, and it's all to do with the new climate bill. And even though this data proves that legislation would be catastrophic and have catastrophic implications for the environment, will that data still get out there? Will they sure that the data goes missing? What will they do with it? It's all a bit messy, but it does sort of all bring it together, and it does sort of create a bit of a finale to this story. I think David Schwimmer does kind of bounce pretty well with Nick Mohammed. They do have quite a lot of fun, and I saw a recent interview with the two of them, and they clearly have a rapport that kind of works as they bounce off each other. But when you talk of, I mean, you might absolutely love it, Ian, but when you look back at the sort of last things we've spoken about, it feels like there's more depth, and this just feels a bit superficial. Dare I say it? So yeah, that's it in a nutshell. But as I say, if it ends here, it's absolutely fine. But they do think that it could make a comeback.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's the greatest comedy I've ever seen, but I do feel a lot of affection for it, because I think Schwimmer is really funny as this American agent who's been sent over to work at GCHQ. He's great in that role. And Nick Mohammed, who of course now a lot more people know from his role in Ted Lasso, as you say, is a great comedy foil. And there's a bit of a sort of 2012 vibe to this special, because they spend a lot of time sitting around a desk in meetings, as they did in that sitcom 2012. It's not, when it's good, it's really funny, I must say, but I think it's a little bit inconsistent. And I don't think the Jennifer Saunders plotline worked particularly well. I didn't feel they made the best of her, because she's a brilliant comic actor, but there's plenty to enjoy in it. I did laugh, I must admit. I laughed quite a few times, and it's been a fun show, and it's just great to see Schwimmer doing comedy. And he was on Celebrity Bake Off recently, and he is one of the good guys. Now we've got to that time, Hannah, where we find out what the heck, perhaps even over Easter, you've been binging on apart from Easter eggs.
Well, definitely those in abundance. Well, you'll be pleased to know it was the final Saturday night takeaway, so I will not bang on about that anymore, but I did enjoy that very much live from Florida. Catching up on a lot of Mock the Weeks as well. And also, I think there's a new series of Meet the Richardsons coming along, so I was having a little binge of that to refresh my memory. How about you?
I watched a bit of that Belfast cop drama series Blue Lights, which is very good. I'd read some good reviews of that, and because I was down at my sister's and she loves Bridgerton, we went back to the beginning, and a reminder of how good it is, I must say. I really enjoyed it. And I had a quick look at the Netflix drama series Beef, which is about this sort of feud that starts with a road rage incident, which is also good. Now, we've just got time to look ahead to what we're going to be discussing next week. So what's on the menu, Hannah?
Rachel Weisz stars as twisted twin doctors in a modern remake of the classic film Dead Ringers on Prime Video.
Yes, another connection there, because of course Jeremy Irons, as well as being in the original Damage, was in the David Cronenberg film Dead Ringers. So there you go, wraps it up nicely. Meanwhile, also next week on Apple TV Plus, Chris Evans and Anna de Amas are lovers caught up and an explosive adventure in Ghosted. So we look forward to those and more, but in the meantime...